So, how do you build a relationship with an ascended master? The idea of working with an ascended master sounds amazing. These are people with the highest levels of mystical abilities: resurrection, instant healing, materialization, levitation, teleportation. Ascended masters are often mentioned as being an avatar of the divine. And certain divine beings have been synonymous with ascended masters. For example, a lot of people call Krishna, Thoth, Christ, Babaji ascended masters. And even though some might disagree, the concept of a divine being in human form is really attractive. The process of ascension, or in Greek apotheosis, is becoming divine. So the Emerald Tablets are a story of how Thoth became divine and what that mean. What So the Emerald Tablets are a story with an instruction book on how Thoth became divine, how you could become divine, and what it means to become divine. Now, I personally feel that, like enlightenment, being divine is a continuum. Instantly healing somebody is significantly different from, say, creating a planet or creating many planets or being able to read the thoughts of millions, if not billions or trillions of beings at once, taking in the concept of infinite awareness and infinite power, omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence, those types of things. So it's exciting to consider that you could have an ascended master as a mentor, that you could talk with one, that you could receive gifts, help, inspiration from one. But there's often a difficulty, a problem, a challenge with this, in that how do you know that they're actually responding, that it's actually them? Now, a lot of times on the spiritual journey, especially in the beginnings and even intermediate stages of training, there's a line between intuition and imagination. Intuition is the language of the soul, and it is pure, it is still knowing. But imagination is usually a fabrication of the mind. If you're imagining something, usually the topic is different. There could be emotional charges to it. You're often generating the concept. It could be wishful thinking or fantasy, and it could be very spiritually aligned. But intuition is often related to receiving. And as you develop psychic abilities, like if you were in wizard school or getting one-on-one mentoring or receiving training and education from any good source, you would eventually realize that receiving a message is different from having wishful thinking and excitement just kind of arise from your own consciousness. So you can overcome this problem by refining your intuition, by deep meditation, and by a few other techniques that I'll talk about in just a minute. Right, intro, types of problem detail. So I could definitely relate. There are a number of different scenarios where I really wanted to connect with an ascended master. I wanted to be saved, I wanted to be taught by the best, I wanted some super ultra cosmic being to fix all my problems, help me become wealthy, healed of everything, have, my entire journey just done so I could serve in the same ascended master way. And when I was earlier in my journey, when I really didn't understand the amount of work it took to ascend and raise not just spirit, but body, mind, and ego with that, to figure out what ascension symptoms were and how to release them. If you're curious about that, see this video that shit. I was often dealing with ascension symptoms, things that arose like health challenges or triggers that I talked about significantly in this video here, where I realized eventually that the deep connection had to be a sincere one. Consider somebody super famous and accomplished that you really respect. It could be Beyonce, it could be Barack Obama, it could be the Dalai Lama, it could be any, human that you can consider that's alive that you might really want a relationship with. Well, often those people are hard to get a hold of, and their time is extremely valuable and limited and scheduled out. Now, the benefit of connecting with an ascended master is a being above the 3D with such an expanded awareness can usually talk with and hang out with many people at once. But if you just want to connect with Thoth to be super magically powerful like Merlin, and that's coming from a state where you're feeling inferior, or you don't want to take personal responsibility for your own life, or you're feeling like you can't do it, like you're not good enough, that's coming from a position of lack. And while you definitely could receive support, instruction, relationship advice from an ascended master, usually it takes a certain amount of inner work to accept the intuitive guidance and support that comes in, to be able to surrender to it. So, for example, if you have an intuition that you need to do something in life that might otherwise be hard, it could be becoming vegan, it could be quitting smoking, it could be something like serving compassionately with unconditional love, people that you might feel a lot of tension around, and just surrendering your ego with all that stuff and doing what you know is right, what is aligned, what you know you might do eventually. If, say, you want a relationship with Krishna or Thoth, and you know deep down, and they know when you're reaching out and you're open and you're pouring your heart out, even just in your own mind, and they know that you're asking for something that you really could do yourself, that they actually might see it not ideal to help you. And you might know this too deep down, because they would be sabotaging you, they'd be robbing you of the growth and development that you naturally need to do. So, why you might be facing this is often because you might not be fully honest with yourself. And so, asking Lakshmi, for example, to give you $1 billion or $10 million and live off the interest or whatever it might be, because you don't feel like working, or you don't like work, or you feel the monetary system or the world is unfair, and you don't want to do the inner work necessary to shift your economic status, it really wouldn't make sense in that scenario for Lakshmi to come in and help you, or for Lakshmi's avatar, any avatar connected with wealth and Tibetan systems, it's Kubera. It wouldn't really make sense for them to help you. Now, you can overcome that not only with self honesty, as I mentioned, but really feeling what the right type of support might be. Say you're deeply depressed or just not motivated in those areas, asking for support with your will, asking for a sign, asking for a certain type of relationship to come in that you can develop and nurture that can help shift your life in that area. Those types of things are usually okay. Now, I'm not claiming to be an authority on every single divine master, ascended master, avatar, their thoughts out there. They have a level of knowing and presence and understanding and enlightenment that is so evolved that it can sometimes make sense, that it can sometimes be hard to make sense out of and understand. But as you develop that surrender, as you expand your own awareness and your own clarity of intuition, that can help significantly. So for me, for example, there were a lot of different times when I really, really wanted to shift my life in a certain way. I say wanted high level flashy magic to impress people. Like I wanted to have balls of light appear with a thought. I wanted to just move objects telekinetically with my mind without limitation. I wanted to meet people who had a certain condition and like have the equivalent of like snapping my fingers and healing them instantly in like seconds. And while there's a lot of stories of ascended masters and other high level beings who have, reportedly been able to do things like that on command, and even non ascended masters, just people with a lot of ability and development, the reason I wanted those things was because I didn't feel good enough to teach or good enough to serve, or like I had enough time or patience or skill to develop that stuff on myself, and I wanted it done for me. But when I was open and I surrendered and I accepted what came in, there was a time when I was in Damanhur, an Atlantean mystery school in Italy. Fabulous, fabulous school. If you reach out and you want to talk about, potentially, traveling there and studying there, please reach out. I'm happy to, talk with you and support you however I can. But I was at their outdoor temple, and there was a huge statue of Horus, and there was nobody else around. I could see the temple was open. There weren't any, closed rooms or anything. It was outside. And I said, Horus, what is right for me to develop a relationship with you as a divine being, as some might say, an ascended master? as others might say, an aspect of the infinite divine anthropomorphized in a relatable, human or quasi-human form. And the answer that came in that was still inconsistent and pure was meditate, start a school, and commit to these, like work on these every single day. And when I asked, how can I serve you? And in terms of serving the divine, not, just worshiping Horus and only Horus, because at the highest levels, divine beings, there's a lot of similarities. If not, it's the same God, just in different personas. When I asked, how can I serve? A huge gong went off in the outside temple. And again, I looked around, there's nobody there. It was a huge synchronicity, a massive sign. And again, meditate, start a school. And it just felt so resonant, so true, especially having that massive phenomenon in the physical world. It was undeniable. It was much different than, hey, I'm going to brainstorm and whiteboard 1,000 different ideas, or I really want to do this. Meditation's great, and I love doing it. But if Horace said, pick a pomegranate, and then a gong sounded, and that's all I had to do, like that'd be way easier. Meditating every single day, my current goal is 3 hours, is a significant amount of work. And while the meditations that I do and that I teach often supplement the need for sleep, so they pay for themselves in time, they do take a fair amount of will. And so being of service to, being accepted by, being supported by the divine, by ascended masters, is something that takes a certain level of alignment. And while I didn't meditate every single day right after I heard that, well, I didn't start and dedicate to building a school every single day right when I heard that, it was a solid intuitive sign that really made a lot of deep sense. Okay, I got how this could harm you already. Power hungry, not taking responsibility. I got that. Frame that. Kind of did that. Solutions with examples. I could talk about that a bit more. I just talked about intuition. Divine responsibility, personal responsibility, guided relationship building, clarity of intent, subconscious self-sabotage, and then call to action. Devotion, taking responsibility, guidance, call to action. So what are some key ways you can develop a relationship with ascended masters? Well, for one thing, deep, sincere devotion. If you really care to have a rich relationship with a being that has so much awareness that could literally read your deepest thoughts and know the clarity of what you mean, even if you can't form the words, say verbally, for example, or you can't allow yourself to think the thoughts, but you know in your heart what you mean, then like pure devotion from the heart, devotion to being of service, devotion to the highest and best path of enlightenment for you, devotion to that being themselves, then that really shows a level of seriousness. If you wanted to be a disciple of the Dalai Lama, for example, devotion might not mean you pray to him, but it might mean that you really take seriously what he would recommend to you. You really acknowledge his mastery, and you care deeply to support his causes and take them on as your causes. And you can say this for any ascended master, any divine being, any human that you really, really respect. How devoted are you? In family, are you a devoted partner? Are you a devoted parent? Are you a devoted child? Devoted to serving the highest and best of the person you're in relationship with? That's a concept that really just takes a lot of sincerity. Now, another way you can develop a relationship with ascended masters is just getting to know them, is learning about them, is reading about them from a variety of different sources, is possibly finding somebody who has a connection with them and you believe that person to speak truth. So there's certain ascended masters which I personally haven't felt the drive to seek out to build a relationship with, and that's okay. I feel I've invested a lot more time, for example, with Jesus, Thoth, Aphrodite, Krishna, as divine beings that you could say have avatars, have ascended masters, representing them or speaking for them or to them than I have, for example, with Jesus or Moses. And while I grew up Jewish, and while I feel I definitely had connections with those two beings, they just haven't been beings I've invested as much time with. So really having an intuitive clarity or having a great teacher who can help you pick one or several ascended masters or divine beings that are right for you, that match you, that you could really connect with, that would be nourishing for you, helps a lot. Okay, almost there. Clarity of intent and subconscious self-sabotage. And having the support of a community or a great mentor who can really help you be honest with yourself of your intent or ways you could have like self-sabotage, that can help so much with clearing any obstacles to developing a relationship with an ascended master or with a divinity. So there's a few ways that I can serve you in these areas if it feels aligned. I love giving one-on-one mentoring and one-on-one support. That's usually a weekly or twice a week structure where we talk on the phone or we video chat and we develop a solid relationship, and I support you in all the ways that make sense for you and all the ways that feel aligned. Secondly, a lot of foundational elements of spiritual development I've taught in wizard school. That's the combination of a lot of knowledge, study, practice, and development that I invested over 20 years and $250,000 to create. Now, for example, wizard school has different things on the different chakras. So the chakra of truth and authenticity, the throat chakra, is something that's pretty good to have clear if you want to receive and speak the truth with a being who really can see deeply into you. And having a clear and open and strong third eye is really important to say receive clairvoyant messages. Having a clear crown chakra is really important to clear and refine elements of the ego and be open to the divine. Having a clear, strong, and healthy root, and there's a lot of lessons and homework and exercises for the chakras in wizard school, can help you be grounded. So say you feel Merlin is an ascended master. I have a little statue of him in my room that I'm looking at. If you want magic because you don't feel safe and you want magic to control the world or people around you, which is kind of dark, which isn't something I practice or teach. I've actually, personally, a long time ago when I was 14, taken vows binding my free will against doing things like that. I personally don't feel those are necessary. I have a deep, deep code of morals and ethics. But if, say, your root chakra is damaged or wounded or stuff like that, there's stuff to clear, there's samskaras, and you want magic to be more powerful, that's probably an ideal thing to clear before reaching out because you don't want to have the intention of spiritual bypassing with that. You don't want to say become a dark guru. Now, you could, of course, ask Merlin or any others for help clearing, healing, strengthening your root chakra. But the more you're aligned, the more, say, you can learn about how to refine and purify your intuition and your different chakras and your karma and things like that, the easier and faster it'll be. Another way that you can really be involved with what I provide and have support building relationships with ascended masters is joining a bigger community. I really love serving in groups, so I do weekly video calls in something called a Magical Mastermind, where you can learn about different topics, you can be part of group healings, you can have a buddy system where you can talk with other people and develop relationships, talking with people working on similar topics. You can be part of a secret and exclusive Facebook group where there's discussion about all these things. And maybe you can receive some spot coaching where you can share something that's going on with your life that's probably relevant to a lot of other people in the group, and I can give you some one-on-one support that can help you refine your journey and work through whatever you're working through to achieve your goals more quickly. So it's really been an honor and a pleasure serving you today. Thank you so much for your time and your love. If you want to be more involved, check out magicalgoldenage.com and sign up for the newsletter. You'll hear a lot of things about upcoming events, info on new videos. If you have any questions or thoughts from this, please hit a comment below. And as always, I'd be really grateful for your support. If you want to just click a like or subscribe or share with friends, just to help the world ascend. So I love you. I believe in you, and at the highest levels, we are one. Namaste.